So I don't know which way to go, Sammy, because it feels like there's a lot of the overreactions that are happening right now. I don't know why. There's I some ways I'm starting to feel worse about everything that went on. Not from a player's perspective. I think we talked about it last night. Everything that I thought last night pretty much still holds true. I still think that there's a lot of things that can go on, that a lot of things that could be done better by the players and everything like that. It's some of the officiating stuff that's really starting to bother me, because I expect it from Bears fans. I expect Greg Braggs to come out here and be like, hey, this play, this penalty cost us. But it's other dudes. It's like Kurt Warner, Ben Kirk, like even people that you would not expect to be Bears fans are like, there were some terrible calls out there. And not that it's any excuse to overlook everything that happened in the game, but still, that's something that happened and something went on. But again, I don't want to dwell on it. I want to look back before we look forward. So Sammy, let's just go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Hey everybody, welcome to the very special Sick Podcast collab with Just Another Year. Going to be talking down the Monday Night Football game, see how everybody's doing it. So to do that, let's bring in our co-host from Just Another Year. It's Nic Roti, who is joining us here. And as he comes on board, Nick, how are we living? How are you doing? We're not even 24 hours away from what happened last night, but how you living?
Living the dream every day. Not twice on Monday, though, unfortunately. Honestly, I'm going to be, I overreacted for sure, just like every other Bears fan. I thought the world was falling last night. What? How could I? No, I was saying this before the show started. It's better to lose by 3 than by 30. That being said, giving up 21 unanswered, there was a lot of positives that are just overshadowed by a terrible ending to the game. So I'm trying to be positive about it. I'm seeing them more and more, but you kind of were saying it earlier, the officiating. Some people were like, can't blame the officiating, but the officiating, in my opinion, was pretty bad last night.
Can we? Can we not? Can we not? Everything that it was, obviously the Vikings' first point stemmed from a 40-yard pass interference penalty. And again, I'm driving. I missed the first quarter of the game because I was driving back from the studio in LA, going down to Huntington Beach, and I'm listening to Kurt Warner. And when Kurt Warner, who is not going to be one of these people who's hyperbolic, it's not like listening to Tom Thayer, who I can only imagine what his reaction was in that moment. But it's somebody who's pretty measured to be like, you cannot allow or reward a receiver who, number one, has to go back from a ball that's 4 or 5 yards short, which it was. You cannot reward receivers who slip and fall and basically trip the defender who comes in stumbling behind them, which happened to Tyreek Stevenson later on in another critical pass interference. I don't want to use that as the excuse as to why the Bears lost. And I know that Ben Johnson spoke to the media on Tuesday, but I want to throw back to some of the things that he talked about Monday night right after the game. So Sammy, if we can listen to the Ben Johnson sound right after the game, and I want to dive in right there.
All right. Obviously, a disappointing way to start the season there for us. We just have a 17-6 lead and then see it go the way it did there in the fourth quarter. We said going into week one that the team that would make the least number of mistakes would win the game, and unfortunately, we were on the wrong side of that. We made too many there late in the game. Myself included. There were a number of things that I could have done better, a number of things that a number of guys could have done better. When you look down at the stat sheet and you see 12 penalties, that's got to get cleaned up in a hurry. And yet we've been saying that all training camp as well. So, we'll find a way to get that done. It's going to be a collective effort. no one's pointing fingers. Statistically, I really think the defense did a really good job up until the very end. That fourth quarter, things got away from us a little bit, but up until then, they kept us in that ball game. Offense was stalling out, some good, some bad. I thought Caleb played well to start the game for the most part, finding completions and getting us moving. We weren't good enough on third down or fourth down as the game went, which we knew that was a good team on those downs. And then, of course, when you have the penalties and hard to establish the run game quite like we wanted to, it felt like we were behind the sticks most times. So second and long and third and long was where we lived, which was a struggle for us offensively. Guys did play hard. They played with great intensity, great effort. And I hate to see that they didn't come out with a W there at the end. But no one's going to feel sorry for us. It's going to be a quick turnaround here to get going for next Sunday in Detroit, our first road game. And so we got to turn the page here quickly.
Nick, when he goes through all those talking points outside of the officiating, what was the biggest thing to you? What is the biggest thing that the Bears need to clean up as they look on to Detroit in week 2?
I know we said bad officiate, but the Bears shot themselves in the foot multiple times yesterday.
Yeah.
Jonah Jackson and Darnell Wright, every time I felt like there was a flag or a false start on the right side. Now, the left side, Joe Thuney, and I have to say this because I know that I've definitely been a Braxton Jones hater before. I thought he played a pretty good ball game last night.
Yeah.
Then the left side of the line did a pretty good job. The right side, not saying they did a terrible job from a blocking perspective. I thought pass protection was actually pretty good, but they were just killing the momentum of drives. I mean, I think there was, who was it? It was like a 15 or 16-yard gain to Zacchaeus or someone that was playing in the slot, called back because of a Darnell Wright hold. That being said, one of his holding calls, I know you said don't talk about the officiating, but the one where literally...
The big one that everybody's talking about, the splash thing.
Like, but still, there was mistakes that were just like, what are we doing? You can't be having false starts. Didn't we have an illegal screen too, or illegal motion or something like that, where I was like, we've been practicing this, guys. But I think penalties was the big thing. And Ben Johnson, who has been preaching this, like he said, since the beginning of camp, whoever makes the least mistakes is going to win the ball game. And clearly 12 penalties, 127 yards. The Bears used to not even put up that many yards of offense a couple years back. So hurts a little bit for sure, but that's a huge factor.
It's one of those things too, that the first drive was pretty much perfect. And because, as long as it's scripted, it's fine. The Bears were moving the ball in the second drive, but it was a penalty. It was somebody else's penalty. I forget who it was, but there was a penalty that derailed it. We went from third and short to third and long. Weren't able to pick up the first down. Didn't go 3 and out in that second drive. So it wasn't like the stalling out of the offense didn't occur until later in the game. And so then it was one of those things too, like, okay, the second drive, there was a penalty. That was an unforced error. That was not a horrible call. That was an unforced error. The third drive, they drove all the way down to field goal range and they go out and they kick the field goal. Now, obviously we lose by 3 points. Yeah, that field goal probably mattered. In addition to the field goal that Cairo Santos missed. And then you couple into it. And again, we're not going to use this as an excuse. You can't make mistakes, but the splash hold that was so atrocious that even Bears haters had to go down there and talk about it. That was the touchdown that would have put him away. That was the one and that's always something too. Cause I'm taking, just like those are always sus to me, as the kids would say. I'm like, it's an interesting call right there. Interesting call right there. So I think more than anything, would you say, because I know everybody wants to drag Caleb Williams right now, I feel like the unforced errors of penalties and things of that nature were bigger than anything Caleb did.
Oh, yeah, I have. So let me just kind of say what I thought about Caleb last night. I gave him a C I gave him a C+ this morning on my show for how he played. 211 passing yards. Okay, not way better than his rookie opener last year. And again, he's in another playbook, like back-to-back years of a new scheme, more intense, more complex, going against Brian Flores' defense. Like I thought 60% completion percentage all things considered, good. He started off so hot, though. 10 for 10.
Yeah.
First Bears quarterback to start 10 for 10 in the season opener, fun fact, which I thought was a kind of cool stat ESPN threw up. But I thought Caleb, just the overthrows. I'm like, what are we doing? When he ran out of bounds and he didn't know where his footing was, and they ended up calling it dead. Easy mental mistake right there. But anytime I saw a sidearm, besides the one that he threw to Rome on the run, which was very smooth, I just kind of put my hands up. I'm like, great, this is going to be an incompletion or it's going to be an overthrow or something like that. In 9 out of 10 times it was. Caleb he went ice cold for a minute. And I think he got into his head, especially after that first or second offensive series where the Bears went 3 and out. You saw Caleb's confidence just diminish. And I think that's a big problem for him. And you could just see it in his body language on the sideline. And I gave JJ McCarthy a big shout out. I know that obviously I still support Caleb Williams, but JJ McCarthy never put his head down, and he was struggling really bad at first, and he fought through the adversity. That's what I think Caleb needed to do last night, and he failed to do that.
Now, that's one of the things that I'm really impressed with JJ McCarthy, and take nothing away. And I don't want to be one of these guys that compares the quarterbacks and we should have drafted him or anything like that. I'm a big fan of JJ McCarthy. And I thought he played really well. Obviously, he gets helped out because of big pass interference. I mean, smart play, underthrow Aaron Jones and have him run back into the defensive back. That's a great ball right there. That's a great way to do it. You throw the ball 5 yards short and you draw a pass interference penalty. Probably your best move right there. And then obviously things opened up for him a little bit later on in the game, which is fair. But I think, and as much as like everybody is dragging Caleb Williams, I feel it's very similar to when you're out of the golf course and you start rushing things where you start you hit a couple of hosel rockets and then you start to lose your tempo. And I think what you need, I think we need to have like Ricky Fowler out there or somebody who just reminds Caleb like, hey, remain in tempo. It's not so much the structure and it's not so much like, he's got to be scripted or anything like that. He just needs to have somebody settle him down and be like, hey, look. And I sit there and I see Josh McCown on the sidelines for the Vikings, excuse me. And I'm like, where is our guy? Where's the Chase Daniel? Where is, JT Barrett or whomever is be like, bro, just like, I want you to work on tempo. I was playing golf a couple of days ago and one of my friends was like, hey, you know what? The one thing that I want you to work on the most right now is like your only swing thought is going to be tempo. Like that should be the only thing you work on. And for Caleb, I think sometimes somebody has to remind him the only thing that you have to work on is tempo and make sure that you're not rushing throws or you're not doing anything. Because again, he had them in position to score points in 2 of the first 3 drives and they were ready to go. And again, the second drive got derailed because of penalties. The third drive got derailed because of hubris. And it's one of those things. And I knew Ben Johnson was going to go for it. There was no way he wasn't going to go for it. The crowd was yelling for it. This is the thing that gets me about the crowd is like, you cannot boo Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams when you were all out there screaming for him to go on 4th and 3 and not take an automatic field goal. And there's nobody to blame but yourselves, Bears fans. Don't be booing it. And the funny thing too, and I know that nobody cares about this because it's only my fantasy team. I have JJ McCarthy and Caleb Williams on my Golf Tech Breaking 80 fantasy football team. I started Caleb ahead of JJ McCarthy and Caleb Williams scored more fantasy points. He did. Caleb Williams scored more fantasy points. That's how you know who the true quarterback is. And speaking of which, you can win your fantasy league or you can own it. Too many fantasy champs walk away with a plastic trophy and a sad little group chat. GG. That ain't it. This is Crown Champs, baby. Custom championship crowns, rings, scepters, robes. You don't just win your league, you rule it. And sure, your buddies having their draft parties or whatever at Applebee's this offseason. Crown Champs was hosting draft parties on yachts, on rooftops, all over the place in cool locations, not doing something super sad or anything like that. So if you want to be a part of this, go to crownchampscompany.com. That's crownchampscompany.com. Sign up for your chance to win one of those custom crowns. Tell them Adam Rank sent you, and you will get 15% off. Now, I know that we don't need to, I don't know. Are you one of these? I know that Caleb has some work to do. And I can sit here and admit that he's got to work on some of his throws. He's got to work on, he's got things to work on as a lot of young quarterbacks do. Are you one of those people who's out on him already?
No, not at all. I want to give a quick little shout out to my friend Chris. He texted me today. He goes, throw Bajan in. And I'm like,
oh God, don't do that.
I'm like, are you overreacting right now? He goes, okay, fine. I'm overreacting a little bit. And I said,
a little bit.
A little bit. And I was like, he's like, no, I think that it's just frustrating because, we put in so much, effort. And I hear diehard Bears fans that like, they just want success. Like they've been dealing with this for so long, but we can't keep running quarterbacks out of town after a season, after a game.
Right.
Honestly,
it's one quarter. Like, honestly, if we're going to be truthful about this, it's one quarter.
Yes, it is one quarter. And it was obviously a big one because Minnesota, piled it on. But, look at Justin Fields. And I think that, shout out to him. I really liked how he played it in a New York Jets uniform. Some guys just progress a little bit differently in the league, but, not everyone's a Tom Brady. Not everyone's a Peyton Manning, which, you go and look at Peyton Manning's first year stats. You're kind of scratching your head. As a Bears fan, you would have been like, oh, that's not the greatest.
They would have ran him out of town.
Yeah, we would have ran him out of town. And then he becomes one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But Caleb needs time. He has everything that he needs. I do want to say this, is that I really liked how Caleb was, using his legs a lot more yesterday. He was the Bears' leading rusher. When the Bears, Ben Johnson said it himself, he's like, I couldn't get in rhythm with the Bears offense from a run game perspective. I just never got it going. Caleb was the effective balance of the Bears offense. When he saw nothing working and he had a lane, he took it, but he did throw it away a few times. He didn't take sacks. He didn't take risky throws. I saw progression last night from Caleb Williams. So no, I'm not out on him. I think that he still has a lot of growing pains and we still have 16 more games to go.
And it's one of those things when everybody looks at this and they're like, well, JJ finished so strong. Caleb was not strong at the end of the game. Did anybody notice what happened with these two teams, with these two offenses? What was going on with them? Because towards the end of the second half, the Minnesota Vikings were able to establish the run. Aaron Jones started to get loose. Jordan Mason started to get loose. Oh, lo and behold, JJ McCarthy suddenly became a better passer. He looked a lot more competent. He had a lot more confidence. The offense was less predictable. As Brian Flores committed to stopping the run and the Bears' inability to establish the run, well, then Caleb Williams started looking worse. Like, do you is it correlation or causation? I was like, once we started getting stuffed on runs, I'm like, this is going to be bad for Caleb because we need to be a little bit more creative in the way we're getting the ball into the hands of our running backs and things like that. And so it did take us out of rhythm. I think the lack of ability from a running standpoint was something that was pretty bad. Now, at some point too, the Bears need to be able to figure this out. Like, that is something that, hey, when it's not going well, like, what are you going to do, Ben? Like, you need to have the answers. And I love the play that the scoring play that went to Roma Dunze. Like, that was a nice play. Like, why can't we find more of that when things are not going well?
I couldn't agree more with you, but hear me out. And I please disagree with me if you do. I think that Ben made it too complex for Caleb at points when there was nothing working at the moment. He needed to find, in the beginning, it was simple. Slants, quick throws, then a big throw over the middle, got Caleb's confidence up. And then he started throwing, different, not flea flickers, but, laterals or different types of runs and everything. And then Caleb was all thrown off. He tried doing too much too quick. And I think that was a mistake on Ben. Yes, Caleb is a professional. But again, the first game with this playbook and a regular season game, it's a lot different, and he's still getting used to it. I think that he should have just stuck with the slant routes, stuck with what was working, then started getting things going. And in the end zone, that's when you bring out those type of trick plays because everyone's expecting the Bears to just run the ball to the outside or do something like that. So I couldn't agree more with you. I loved the Caleb Rome connection, by the way. I mean, yesterday together, 6 catches, 37 yards, that 117-yard grab where Rome had the perfect foot dragon, the only receiving touchdown. I mean, they looked good together, but Caleb he needed a little bit slower into this game, in my opinion.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to the tempo. Have the tempo that's going to make you successful. Don't try to rush everything. Don't try to rush every throw. Be, be complacent with just like he was doing a great job of it early on. And even people who now get access to the all 22s and are like, well, I'm watching this and Caleb missed this, or like, you know what? He was taking the throws that were available to you like that. Like, yeah, he could have tried to stretch the ball down the field. And I think that he should take more shots as he gets more comfortable. But at the same time, when he was matriculating down the field, that was a great rhythm. That was great. That was like, it was so methodical. And for them to go out there and be able to do that, that was the dream. Like, we're like, okay, that's good. That was my biggest fear, was that we would lose, but we would look dreadful right from the get-go. We did establish ourselves as a team that was able to move the ball and doing some things. And by the way, I think people forget the Minnesota Vikings last year gave up the 5th fewest points in the NFL. They added to the defensive line this season. Some would argue that they got better. This is a team that won 14 games last year that a lot of people are like using as a hipster pick to go to the Super Bowl. So it's not like we were playing some bums. If we would have struggled like this against Carolina, I'd be sitting here. I'd be like, yeah, maybe we should look around and maybe we should take the temperature in the room. And I don't want to do this thing either where you start comparing them to other quarterbacks. It's like Bo Nix didn't play great. Drake May did not look very good. Nobody will ever admit this, and I know this because people don't. But like, I watched the Washington game as a broadcast, and I'm like, oh, is Jaden going to have a sophomore slump? Because he's not playing well. He was fortunate. He was going up against the Giants and going up against a team that had no offensive threat whatsoever. We'll see what happens Thursday night. I could end up eating these words, but at the same time, I think that we're getting too caught up to this. I saw somebody in a tweet responding to our guy, Greg Braggs, who was like, I'm so sick of this. Like, Washington immediately was good. I'm like, no, they weren't. Washington lost their first game last season, 37-20 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jaden Daniels had less than 200 passing yards. He couldn't throw the ball. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns, which is similar to what Caleb was able to do. So it's actually sort of similar, except we looked better than Washington did in week 1 last year. Not that we should be comparing ourselves to them. We should be holding our own standard of everything that's going on. By the way, I know that a lot of people will be fired up to watch. I don't know. I was going to say people are going to be fired up to watch the game on Sunday. Maybe they won't be, but I will ask you rather, where's your next game day going to be? Listen, if you're a real Chicago sports fan, and I'm talking about the Bears, Bulls, Hawks, Cubs, Sox, you need to be watching the game at Twisted Shamrock. The place lives for game day. Monster televisions in the private room over the main bar, and of course in the patio. It's still patio weather in Chicago. Listen, they got rowdy fans, bucket specials, and our favorite, the best old-fashioned in the Midwest. And if you are in town, if you're looking for a place to watch the game on Sunday, go to Twisted Shamrock and order an old-fashioned. You won't be disappointed. It is the place to be on game day. And at some point, I was already booking my trip to come out to Chicago in December, because I'm like, I'm going to come out because so many times I'm so sick of going to like Las Vegas. Not that I'm sick of going to Las Vegas, but like Vegas, Arizona, Santa Clara. I'm like, I never get to go see the Bears at home. It's fun being on the road, and it's fun mingling with the West Coast fans, SoFi Stadium as well. But at some point, you're like, I gotta get back out to Chicago, and I want to do that. There was something else. What did you think of? Did you get this a lot? Because I got a lot of people who don't watch football or whatever, texting me like, hey, why didn't he kick it out of bounds? Or why didn't he kick it out of the end zone? Do you feel like Cairo just wasn't able to put it out of the back of the end zone, or that Ben made a tactical error?
You know, Zach Pearson put out a really good tweet about this earlier and talked about how, Cairo Santos, he meets the expectations from 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 55. And then after 55 plus, which again is impressive to say the least, the longest field goal ever at Soldier Field was kicked last night by Minnesota at 59 yards which was crazy.
Of course.
You know what? I like Cairo. I think he's a good locker room guy. I really think that he just couldn't kick it out of bounds. I've never seen him throw it. I mean, or not throw it, kick it out of the end zone ever. Even with the last kickoff rule before the current one, Cairo never got it fully out. The farthest I saw it kicked, I believe it was against, it was Tampa Bay 2 years ago. It was it was Claypool's last game. That's how I remember it. And Santos just hit like the back of the end zone. I was like, dang, he couldn't even get it out with the wind in his favor. And then Ben Johnson coming out and saying, yeah, we intended for that ball to go out. That's a big problem because Ben, as crazy as an analytical guy as he is, the Bears could have had 56 seconds left if they did get that 3 and out, which the way the defense was playing, I thought they had a decent shot at it. But I was a little shocked when I saw it not go out because during my live stream, I was like, what is going on? Why are we not kicking it out or at least going for an onside kick?
Yeah. I hate that the onside kick rules have changed over the years and that it's like almost impossible to even do an onside kick. Although we got one against Minnesota last year. Maybe that's why they're like, we can't try it again. We got lucky last season. I don't know. There's so much to go. There's so much to unpack still. And it's just one of those things. It's like it's very frustrating because I know a lot of people, it's interesting to me listening to a lot of the talking heads or anybody who's around the NFL. Everybody told me that I was an absolute moron for picking the Chicago Bears to win that game. They're like, what do you mean? You're going to never beat the Vikings, whatever. And then those same people, they show up and they're like, oh, you guys blew that one. I'm like, well, you never thought we were going to win. So why all of a sudden do you think now, like, oh, you should have won that game? No, you shouldn't. Like, you told me that we weren't going to win that game. But now that you think that we should have won that game, it's always interesting to me. Let me ask you, though, Dennis Allen's defense. I know, obviously, it looks bad. 21 points in the fourth quarter. Do you put any blame on the defense? Because I don't, but I'm curious as your thoughts on that.
No, I don't. I thought the defense did a really good job yesterday. Some of the penalties, let's go back to the penalties real quick. Like the one on Dio where he was just
oh my God. It's another one.
I'm like, are we not allowed to touch people? And then on top of it too, the roughing the passer on JJ McCarthy, Caleb got drilled. And Caleb got called. Thank goodness he got called for that penalty. Justin Fields would have never. But I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, what are you supposed to do? You're 6'6", 265 pounds, running under a 4.7 40 time in pads. You can't define gravity to stop on a dime. You are literally a Mini Cooper running at JJ McCarthy at that point.
Right.
And that rule, I mean, I get it. You're trying to protect the quarterback, but that's like going to the DJ Moore hit where there was no flag on that play. Where DJ Moore was a defenseless player. And I'm like, the level of penalties is just crazy. So I thought Dennis Allen's defense did everything they could, but they kept getting more penalties. So then they're in their own head, like, great, I don't want to get called again. I don't want to kill another drive. Coach told probably Dennis Allen, this is me predicting, said, don't do that again. But then what are you supposed to do? You can't play football. You can't get pressure on JJ McCarthy unless you send a spy corner, but you're taking someone out of coverage. When you got Hawkinson, Naylor, Jefferson, everyone out there making plays. So I don't blame the defense because I think they were playing too conservatively because of the penalties, and they were gassed at the end. Bears at one point had -1 yards in the fourth quarter from minute 15 to minute 5.5. That's a problem. So, the defense was gassed. No, I think Dennis Allen, watching him running up and down the sideline, and listen, Dennis Allen's no spring chicken anymore. But the energy he brought, just everyone was getting excited. Jalen Johnson was out there getting pumped up. I loved this defense. And when guys were called upon to be up on the starting team, like Noah Sewell did really good against the run, I thought the defense played great yesterday. And we were missing arguably the best defensive back in the NFC and then one of the best nickel corners in the NFC. So that's when you were saying that. You said something earlier and it's stuck in my head and I just got to get it out. Everyone talking about how, you blew that one. Yeah, everyone was expecting the Vikings to win, but we were missing two of our best defensive backs and we still were shutting down Justin Jefferson most of the game, minus maybe 2 drives. And Aaron Jones, I mean, I have the box score in front of me right now. Aaron Jones had 8 rushes for 23 yards. That's a 2.3 yard per carry average. His better stats were receiving, and one of them was off a blown coverage. So, like, did Minnesota really beat us? And we only lost by 3 points. And Minnesota almost blew the game. If we would have kicked it out of the end zone, I think it would have been a whole new game. So, sorry, you said that earlier, and it just like stuck a dagger in the heart. And I was like, wait, we gotta go back to this.
And I'm with it. For anybody who says like no excuses and all that, and like I am not offering up excuses. I'm offering up places where we can get better. I agree with Ben Johnson. We can get better. There's a lot more things that we can get better on doing. To me, it's kind of like, imagine like I would love to know what it was like. I would like to say I wish we could find some of these Bears fans and have them watch the Star Wars trilogy for the first time. And just, I would love to get their reaction, like after Empire Strikes Back, and they'd be like, listen, like, I know Luke blew up the Death Star, but let's be honest, he looked terrible in his one-on-one with Vader. He lost his hand. Like, we got to get rid of this guy. We got to find a new Jedi. We can't, Luke's obviously washed. We're never going to win anything with this guy. Like, no, like there's still a lot of time left. We're going to go out there. These guys are going to make mistakes. And I would implore anybody, take some time and watch football from around the world and just be like, oh yeah, not everything is Madden where everything is a completed pass. Like, these are human beings competing against each other. Things happen. Not everybody is perfect, and you can't go out there and expect perfection. You know who we can expect perfection from? Our buddy Mike at Windy City Sports Cards. No, I'm telling you, at Windy City Sports Cards, they specialize in buying and selling all things related to Chicago sports. Whether you are a diehard fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, Fire, they've got you covered. We've got you covered with an extensive collection of sports memorabilia and collectibles. Windy City Sports Cards. My guy, like I've already, one of my friends I just was golfing with over the weekend or on Friday, he was like, he was telling me how obsessed he was with cards. I'm like, well, here's my buddy's card. Go to Windy City Sports Cards. Go check him out. And I think he's already fired in on a Lamar Jackson card. So that was pretty cool. So
did you see he made us a card?
Did he?
Yeah, he posted it. He's making us a card. So
no, I did see that. Yeah, I retweeted that. Mike's the best.
Like, sweet. I've never been on a baseball card before or football card before.
when you guys were running around and trying to find Ben, we talked about this last week. When you were trying to find Ben Johnson's plane, it was one of my favorite days of all time. Just being a Bears fan, because it was so much fun. And I was texting Mike. I'm like, "Are you guys really out at the air? Like, this is so much fun going out and do that." I wish. Oh, I gotta get clearance from Kyle Long, because I've got a great Kyle Long story. I might have to drop it tomorrow. I'll have to ask him if I could use that video on my podcast, because he left me a video message on Sunday. I won't spoil. But speaking of video, as we close this down, I've got some words of wisdom, something that'll help us make us feel better. I was actually going to pull sound from Ted Lasso, but I have a real life example of somebody who wants to give us a pep talk, and it comes from a place that you wouldn't expect it. Here, pumping up the Chicago Bears is our nemesis and our opponent this Sunday, Dan Campbell. Sammy, why don't we go ahead and roll that sound?
Oh, look, this is the same thing we ran into with, with AG and Ben. I mean, in 22, we remember we started 1-6. I mean, I think people were asking me to fire Ben at 1-6. So look, it took us a while to get our feet, man. So to get our bearing, but you learn every time you go through these and you work together and you find the right flow, and you do it collectively, you do it together, and like I said, man, the more those 5 play together, we got 2 young guards, but the more they all play together, the better we're going to get. These are real reps against other opponents, and you get a full game, and man, you go and you teach off of it, and you correct it, and you learn from it, and you move on.
See, there it is. Dan Campbell might as well have just been speaking to us and Chicago Bear fans. It's not as bad as you think it is. It's going to be there's an opportunity this week to get better, and I look forward to talking to you about it again. Do you have any last words of wisdoms before we get out of here? words of wisdoms as we get out of here.
I will say there are 16 more games this year. We're going to be okay. Lots of time to get better. We're going to be good. We have a good team. We're a lot better than last year. We will be fine. There's 16 more games.
And that's one of the things to remember too. Like when you think about JJ McCarthy, he's joining a team that was the number 2. Well, it should have been had the second most wins in the NFC last year. A 14-win team with one of the best head coaches in the NFL, and he was joining an established roster where the Bears have been building from the ground up with a brand new coach, brand new staff, brand new playbook. It's going to be just fine. So, Nick, I thank you so much for being here. We'll be back next Tuesday to break down our victory over the Detroit Lions. I will be back tomorrow with Take It to the Rank. Greg Braggs will be joining us. And then at the end of the week, we're trying to coerce Cynthia Freeland to be here on Friday for the Bears preview. So until that time, for Nick, I'm Adam. Bear down, and Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.